Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us this Friday afternoon. It's just 12 noon, and wishing you a very warm welcome to Lessons in Leadership today, Friday, last day before the weekend. And I'm very excited to welcome today Mel Larsen, Dream Project Coach, and also founder of festivals who've been going for over 15 to 18 years. Phenomenal leader. Welcome, Mel. It's really great to see you here today.
Thank you, Mary. It's such a pleasure to be here. You must know that I adore you and admire you. So for you to describe me as phenomenal, I don't think you know how much that means to me. Thank you.
Oh, that's a real pleasure. I think we're definitely destined to set up a mutual admiration society here, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know that you've got loads of energy. You're a very creative person. You know, I love looking just at the background, that piece of art you've got there in the background, how it matches your earrings and everything. All absolutely wonderful. And I know that our guests or people who are watching today or watching later on will want to know a bit more about who you are and what's brought you to where you are in your life right now and your business right now, because you're a very successful coach, but you're also a very successful founder of the different festivals and communities. You're a community builder. So if you could just share with me a bit more about your background and what's brought you to where you are now.
Thank you, Mary. Gosh, how long have you got? Well, first of all, you mentioned this painting behind me. So that's a part of who I am, because I'm an artist and I'm a Sunday painter. But creativity is a big part of what I do. And so, you know, that's a part of me. But how I got to where I am is I started out working in theatre, research and theatre. And I had a 9-to-5 job. Not that theatre is ever really 9-to-5. You know, you're always at the shows and things like that. I was doing marketing and then became a manager of a theatre company, which I loved. But then I was invited to join a consulting firm. And I was ready to do something different. And at the time, it was a huge leap forward for me. I'm talking 30 years ago. And really loved consulting because I had the chance to get nosy and go into different organisations in the cultural field and look at how they were marketing and how they were approaching developing audiences. And sometime around 15 years ago, I discovered personal development. Maybe it's 20 years ago now, I can't remember. It seems a long time ago. And I started to do some really, really intensive personal development programs. Loved it. Started to understand how the human mind works, how we work in groups and communities, and just got really excited about human potential and became a coach. I didn't become a coach immediately because I overheard somebody in one of those personal development environments saying, oh, not another person that's become a coach. And I don't know if you can believe this, Mary, but that put me off becoming a coach for about 7 years. Wow. The stupid thoughts we have, because I didn't want people to think I was a cliche. It was kind of this subconscious thought. And funnily enough, the person that I overheard became one of my premium clients years later. So the person that had said, oh, no, not another coach, ended up hiring me. So then I became a coach, and I realised that the thing I was most excited about was small business growth. There are more small businesses than any other type of business in this country. We often think about the big brands, and of course they're important too, but there are millions of small businesses. And I found that I could bring all of me to those people. So that's why I'm mentioning my artistic work, because, you know, I'm often getting my clients making vision boards, thinking creatively. I can use all the personal development training that I've had, and also bring in the consulting knowledge I have about marketing and organisational development. And what I found was when I bring all those things together, I got that click. You know, when you have that click where it's like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I love this.
Yeah.
I love getting paid well for it. But I also, even if I was doing it for free, I would love it. And, you know, I'm now 56 and I feel like it's all clicking into place. And I never, you know, when I was in my 30s, I kind of saw this age as a bit of a decline, and I'm realizing, oh my God, this is the best time of my life, because everything I've learned I can use, and I can express who I am, and I can help people. So that's my journey.
I do love that. And I love how you talk about it clicking in and how energizing that is for
Yeah.
you, and that in your, you know, you're in your 50s, which I'm sure there'll be many people who'll be watching later, or if not today. That is, you know, there are many people having been through their careers, reaching the sort of more mature years, whatever you want to call it, but there's still that youthfulness, there's that energy, because you kind of found your purpose, you've clicked into what really, really motivates you
Yeah.
and gives you energy. It sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I was curious about your 3 festivals. Share a bit more about how that came to be.
Yes, thank you. So, by the way, thank you so much, Mary, for having me here. It's just such a pleasure to be with you. So, the 3 festivals came out of leadership, funnily enough. So, I was on a personal development course, a very rigorous one, and it was a 6-month leadership course, and you had to create a project that would impact a community. And so, I had this wild idea of creating this arts event, and it was very unstructured at the time, and it just grew very organically. And to cut a long story short, I created a community arts festival in Streatham in South London, where I used to live, and that then grew and grew and grew, I ran it for 5 years, and it became actually a rather large unpaid job because I was doing it voluntarily, and I learned how to develop team. That's how I learned about growing teams and communities. And before that festival, there wasn't really very much happening in Streatham, and I just saw this gap. You know, sometimes for me, one part of being a leader is noticing a gap and deciding to step in and say, I'm going to create something here, which I did. And I was terrified because my worry at the beginning was, I'm an arts marketing consultant. If this goes wrong, I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm going to have egg on my face, you know, so it's really scary. But then bit by bit, I started to realize you just need to keep taking the steps. And then what happened was, after 5 years, I decided, right, that's enough. It's becoming kind of quite overwhelming. I handed it over to 2 amazing women. And then that festival came back to me and said, we need a food festival in Streatham. Will you organise that and create that? So then I created a food festival and ran that for a couple of years. And then I then thought, I've had enough of festivals now, because they're fun and they're like this Rubik's Cube of challenge. There's so many different things when you're running. I guess you could call it an organisation. I mean, it was all voluntary, but it was working with communities, which actually in some ways is harder, working with volunteers and working with people who are paid, because you can't kind of show them the contract and say, look, you agreed to do this. They can walk away at any minute. Although they didn't. They were all the teams I worked, the voluntary teams were amazing. And I wasn't going to do another festival because my career was just like really taking off and I had hardly any time. But I got talking to someone on Twitter, and we were talking about the International Day of Peace, and that conversation somehow became my 3rd festival that I founded, because we got so inspired about the potential for peace in the world and what would cause that. And it's such a big problem in the world, if you like the lack of peace and personal peace and peace between people. It was like, how can that be solved? And we thought, it can't, there's no simple answer, but what we do know to do is to take, again, one step after another. Let's get people talking about it, because you look in the media and you don't often read about peace. You're reading about the opposite of peace. You're reading about atrocities, about violence. And of course, it's important to shine a light on atrocity so we can do something about it. But let's have some balance. Let's talk about beauty and harmony and get people talking about that. So that was the impetus of that festival. And that just became a festival. It grew and grew. And I finally managed to hand it over to somebody 8 years later, because I really was like, I don't want to start another festival. But we got so inspired and people just got really behind it. So I don't run festivals anymore, but that was about, you know, all in all, 17 years of my time galvanizing a community into action, handing off each festival as it grew bigger.
Yes.
That was an experience in itself, was to let go of something. So, you know, a lot of people let go of their baby, but there came a time with each one where I thought, I've done enough and it's up to someone else to run it. And I feel the thing I feel most proud of is that I found other leaders to take on the baton and take it forward.
So you were enabling others to step up into their leadership as well. through your
Yeah.
passing it on. So I'm really
Yeah.
getting a sense of your creativity and how leadership is. You know, people don't necessarily relate to themselves as being creative, but leadership is a role of creativity. You know, you are creating something. You are, you know, visualizing it, visioning, co-creating it, maybe with others. But it is a
Yes.
very creative thing to be doing. And then also, you know, having that really clear emotional connection through purpose is what I'm hearing there. The particular one you described around peace and how that really connected and inspired you and the other people that you created it with. And finally being able to pass it on, which I actually think that's very linked to, it is a bit like being a parent. You know, you have children and you bring your children up to be able to be really effective contributory adults in the world. You let them go eventually. Similarly, with when you set something up like that, you're going to pass it on and let it go as well. So phenomenal journey and just incredible what you've achieved there. So I've called this Facebook Live Lessons in Leadership, and you've already shared a whole load of lessons. What I'm really interested in is a big turning point moment for you in your life, and it could be in work or it could be in personal life. But it was a time that really got you to sort of, or maybe even took your breath away, or get you to sit back and, you know, an aha moment that has caused you to shift who you are, and that shows up in who you are as a leader today. I'm interested to know a bit more about that.
Thank you. That's an amazing question. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about, there's been so many turning points. You know, leadership is like an endless journey. I want to share a fairly recent one because it's really fresh for me and it's impacting me right now. So it's in two parts. So the first part was, like many people at the start of the year, I was like, 2020 is going to be an amazing year. You know, I'm really going to go for it. And I was like, I'm going to go big. I'm going to go beyond everything I've done before. I'm really kind of in the zone. And I've got this vision board here to show you that, because I'm very big on vision boards. So this is something I created with me at the center, feeling calm and assured and patience. It says
the
up there
lotus effect, I can see.
And the 6 is, you know, going beyond 6 figures and then having these great holidays and all of it. And I just felt so inspired. And I have a VIP group of small businesses, and I shared my goals with them. I literally shared the figures. I thought, I'm going to be transparent. And I said, I'm going to give X amount to 10% of my income to charity, like the massive goals. And, you know, I wanted to walk the talk with them. And then COVID hit. And it had a massive impact on me, like I think most people around the world. And for about 2 or 3 days, I was in a lot of fear and doubt, not just around my business, but just in my life, because it triggered this childhood fear of dying. And it's come up quite a lot whenever I do a deep personal development course. It often comes up. Like I did this amazing program around abundance and money, and I was like literally crying in this program and saying, I don't want to die. Like, it was this very deep fear, which I think comes from being a child in hospital at a very, very young age. It was very scary. So all this irrational fear came up for me, and I was like, I'm going to catch this thing, I'm going to die, you know, and it was just so irrational, but, you know, quite visceral and uncomfortable to go through. And I was surrounded by people who were maybe not saying that, but having the same fears. And maybe it wasn't as extreme as mine, but there were people thinking, I'm going to lose my livelihood. You know, I can't go out because I don't feel safe. These were in the early days when we were thinking, what is this thing? How dangerous is this virus? Nobody knew. And there was so much speculation.
Yes.
And so I really clicked straight into, got to be safe. You know, I was into action. Like, I've got to kind of organize myself around this. And then my dear husband, Peter, said, you're panicking. And I was like, I'm not panicking.
Don't panic,
you know,
don't panic.
You are a trained leader. You need to pull yourself together. And I wasn't running around shouting, but he knows me. He could tell that I wasn't in the zone.
Yeah.
And the minute he said that, I thought, you're right. And I have got people around me who are looking at me whether I think they're watching me or not. Because when you're kind of reasonably visible, people start saying to you, "Oh, that thing you said, that inspired me," and you're like, "I was just chatting," So you start to realise you've got a degree of influence. And I'm not a famous person, but still, there are people around me who look to me because I'm coaching them or I'm running groups, and they're like watching my behaviour as a leader. So it was like I woke up and I thought, I have got to bring something to people in one of these most challenging crises the world has known, the contemporary world has known. I know there have been viruses in the past, but this is a big one in our lifetime. I've got to support people. I can't fall apart, even if I want to. I can't. There's no time. I've got to show up as a leader. So that was a turning point for me, and I realised. And I had a group call. I had 2 group calls. One was I have 2 programs for small business owners that are, kind of like high commitment over 6 months, and one of them was coming to an end. So my first challenge was, I'm normally running this in a luxury boutique hotel. I've got to run a really good session with 6 people who paid me good money online, and it's got to be good, and it's their last session. And then I've also got to run a session with a new group, and it's got to be good. So I was like, I'm used to being online, been doing it for decades, not uncomfortable with, I was using like GoToWebinar 10 years ago.
Yes.
But this was a program I wasn't used to running online. And so I had to deal with that. And then I was like, how am I going to empower them during a time when I don't know what's happening yet. Nobody knows. I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know how serious it is. I don't know what's going to happen to the economy. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm looking around. Nobody knows. Fear and doubt again. And I've got these sessions. I've got to show up. And then another turning point was nobody knows the way, right? Nobody is the expert right now. But I am a coach. I'm a small business leader. I'm going to have to come up with something. I'm going to have to show up at my best, even though I don't feel like my best right now. And I'm scared that I'm going to take people down a pathway and it's going to be the wrong advice, or, because I'm a coach, I advise. I'm a mixture between a coach and a mentor. And then I realized we never know. In leadership, that's the challenge of leadership. I've heard it described as the loneliness of leadership. You can read 100 books, you can have loads of experience. The higher you climb as a coach or a leader or in anything, there's always going to be something that comes up where you think, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to be there for people. So I ran these sessions and I redesigned them actually so they could reflect on what was happening. I was worried because this isn't really what the program's about, but this feels like the most appropriate thing is to just say, to lead a session on how you're going to deal with what's happening. And I essentially got people to talk through their strengths and weaknesses and opportunities, classic kind of SWOT approach, which people found immensely valuable. So my instinct was like, this is what people need right now. And then look at how are you going to pivot? What are you going to do? How are you going to bring the best of you to this situation? And then I realized this is what everyone needs. So I started running public workshops on the same subject, helping people to pivot. That was quite nerve-wracking. There's another level of worry because I'm like, I know to a degree my clients love me. They're going to go with what I say. The public, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what kind of state of mind people are going to be in. And, I ran sessions where people would cry in those sessions. People would say there's nothing, and I would have to we're going to find something. Like, that space that people go into when they're like, nothing, I can't do anything. And you're like standing there saying, we're going to find a way. That can feel uncomfortable in these times because you risk sounding like a Pollyanna or like a fantasist, But I do strongly believe if you are sound of mind and you're reasonably well resourced, you can find a way. I'm not talking about people, literally starving. That's the different. That's another ballgame. And I ran those public workshops. So I had a sliding scale because I thought I need to do not a nod, actually, that sounds cynical. I need to think about people who are really struggling, but also I know there are people out there who can pay. So I did workshops that were at different price points. Like the lowest price point was like £2. And then there was one for like £27. And people paid at all different price points. And I gave the proceeds to food banks, to the Trussell Trust, who run food banks in the UK, and we raised £1,200. And I asked friends as well, but most of it came from the workshops. And so it was a win-win. situation. And at the end of those workshops, I said, if anyone wants to work with me, here's how you can work with me. So it's actually win-win-win.
Yes.
We gave it to charity. I helped people. If you were really struggling, you could still attend a very good workshop for £2, and some people did pay £2. And I also gained profile, so it just felt like everything really worked.
A win all round.
Yeah.
I also, what I'm hearing really clearly is from having being confronted yourself with your own fears, and allowing that to, not rejecting it or sitting on it, actually recognizing, and when your husband said, you're in panic mode, I'm not panicking. It's such a classic, I'm not panicking. And then realizing that's what's going on. But then allowing that to open up for you what you then created as a leader, I think is a phenomenal lesson that you shared here. So our emotions are so helpful, even when we're experiencing negative emotions, they are so helpful in telling us and guiding us in the direction that we eventually take. And it's a gorgeous story from the point of view of what you then were able to contribute, not only to your clients, but also to people who were previously not your clients as well. And maybe they're your clients going forward. I don't know. But the fact you made it very accessible as well. Amazing story, Mel. Thank you for sharing that. And I suppose what I want just to sort of sum up here is, what are you taking away? What's the key learning for you that you're now taking away from that whole journey that you've been through during the lockdown and through COVID that will impact your leadership going forward?
Great questions, Mary. I think the key learning I'm taking is to really believe in myself. Now, that might sound strange because I've done a lot already, but you know how us coaches like to say, new level, new devil. It doesn't matter how much you've done. When you get to a new level, there's just there's always something new that you have to confront in yourself or out there in the world. And it's hard to put into words, but there's like this greater trust of myself, because I feel I've been through one of the most challenging contexts that a leader can go through, and emerged having really made a difference. People have told me that made a difference to them.
Yes.
So I trust myself to contain situations much more than I did, because I went through that space of not knowing. We all like to be the expert, and being in that space of, I actually don't know what the right thing to do here is. I've got a set of tools I can use, but there is a risk. And I think I feel more comfortable now with not knowing.
Yeah, that's a fantastic thing to get. And I hope that actually what you're sharing is something that leaders around the world are now getting. Because I know years ago, when I first sort of entered into the world of leadership development, a lot of what organizations employed me for was being able to manage the ambiguity of change, because they felt so uncomfortable with it. But actually, it's almost what the pandemic has done is it's forced it upon all of us that we've got to start learning, how do we deal with not knowing and with all that uncertainty and complexity and ambiguity that there is around. It's really been a great training ground for all of us from that perspective. Great share, Mel. Thank you so much. Just before we conclude, I just want to ask, is there anything in terms of advice you would pass on to our listeners and viewers in terms of managing themselves through this pandemic? Anything else you would pass on?
Two things. The first thing is, if you're a chief exec, hire Mary, because this conversation, I can hear your coaching skill. I'm a coach. I can totally hear the listening. It's been really pleasant to have someone listen to me for a change.
Thank you very much.
I recognise good deep listening. So, and I know that you have integrity. So, I'm just like, hi, Mary. Secondly, what would I say to people? And hire me if you're a small coach. So a small business, by the way, or a freelancer entrepreneur. I think just remember there are a lot of opportunities out there. People constrict in this environment. You look on social media, you look at the news, it's all constrictive. It makes you shrink, it makes you fearful, it makes you panic. That space, people are talking about it. It's all negative. There's a lot of negative news. And that can make us forget that there are still zillions and zillions of opportunities out there. For example, when I'm on LinkedIn, I will see people saying, I haven't got any work, don't have any clients. And in the same LinkedIn, I'll see people saying, we're looking to hire people, someone to do this, do that. And I'm thinking, who is putting the two together? Are those people looking? So I don't want to be a Pollyanna. There are challenges, but sometimes people give up looking too soon. So, and that is a reason to hire a coach or join a group or talk to a friend. Get out of your head and remember there's a whole rich, abundant world out there.
Fantastic. Very powerful advice and final words from you, Mel. Thank you so much. You've been an amazing guest. It's been a real delight listening to you. Thank you. And we'll get this video uploaded on all the social media channels. So do tune in or do watch later. If you haven't been able to watch all of it today, do follow up with us and add your comments when you do. We always love seeing those. I'd like to say thank you all for watching and for listening. Do tune in next week, 12 noon again next week, the 20th of November. We are inviting Inga Woodstra van Gronel, who is the author of Gender Smart. So I'm very much looking forward to speaking to Inga about her leadership journey as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.